What's up and welcome back to Cryptographics. Today, we are going to go over the number one way to make the most of Pulsechain at launch in regards to token swaps, both pre-bridge and post-bridge. So before we get into today's video, quick shout out to our newest member of our YouTube membership, the only Juanito. Thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure to have you part of the graphics gang. But without further ado, let's continue into the video. So for this video, we're going to focus primarily on PLS and PLSX under the presumption that you miss both of sacrifices. There are risks and rewards to any strategy, and all will have variables that cannot be accounted for or properly predicted. And we're not going to go over everything here today. We can't. It's impossible. We can't predict everything. We don't know all the strategies, but we're going to try our best to lay some out in some likely scenarios so we can then plan accordingly and try and prepare, and so we can make the best of both the pre-bridge and the post-bridge situation. And this is not financial advice, so please take this with a grain of salt. This is only for entertainment purposes only. So the big picture here. Now, pre-bridge swaps may be an opportunity to get a token like PLS or PLSX at prices we may never see again. It seems the only point that may have some predictability with the price we are swapping tokens at will be the moment mainnet goes live, due to the fact that there will be no dollars, or dollar amount, I should say, attached to the ratios, which is our point of relativity. After every minute and hour upon launch, the token ratios in pools will potentially move further away from what or where they started at. This means it will be very hard to tell if you are getting a great deal or a bad deal on a swap. It's going to be very difficult. I'm sure there's a way to calculate this, but it's going to be quite difficult. And if I can figure out a way to do it, maybe I'll release something, but that seems like a lot of work, and I don't know if it's actually going to be worth it or be able to calculate what we'd be trying to calculate. So let's keep painting this picture here. All in all, pre-bridge seems as though it may be rewarding to get in early, but carries increasing risk and uncertainty as time goes on. Of course, it is impossible to say whether prices will be above, below, or the same as its initial starting point after the bridge opens. Once the bridge opens, we will finally see what the prices are sitting at. But until then, it's going to be impossible to know whether we're higher or lower than wherever we started. And once the bridge opens, there are many scenarios that could play out. It seems unlikely that the price of either PLS or PLSX would be very close to the initial sacrifice rates of $1 equaling 10,000 tokens, or 0.0001 dollar per token, essentially. To the degree that either token launches above the lower sacrifice rates, I believe will have a direct correlation to the degree that people either take profits or use those tokens to get into another, i.e. swapping PLSX for PLS or PLS for PLSX, etc. And I think it's pretty likely, and it's important to talk about here, that if the video that I posted a while back about the price of PLS is true, which we're going to get to in a second, then we're going to see an increased probability, I think, that we will see a dip, which we'll talk about later. If you've, like you said, if you've seen the video that I just did on the price of PLS, then you're going to know that if everything launches as it is like today, roughly, which it probably won't, it'll move some more still, but it'll be around a 16x at launch. If it's just based on what the ratios of ETH to all the other tokens are in the pools after the fork, then should be roughly around there. So then the question becomes, when exactly will the first dip occur for either PLS or PLSX, and will it be a better opportunity than pre-bridge? This is the big question. Is it going to move up or down? Is it going to be pretty stagnant? How much are prices going to be able to move pre-bridge? Or there's a lot to think about here. So let's talk about the dip. With the amount of wallets that sacrificed for PLSX over PLS, 140,000 roughly versus 40,000 roughly, 140,000 wallets for PLSX and 40,000 roughly for Pulse sacrifice, it is likely that PulseX or PLSX dips first, as many people sacrificed as a way to have tokens to swap for PLS immediately at launch. So if this scenario plays out, a PLS dip will likely occur afterwards, but it is completely unpredictable as to when exactly it will occur and to what degree. This is the big thing. It's impossible to predict how much we'll see a swing high or low, if we'll see one low, if we're going to see one. It's impossible. We can make speculations based on educated guesses and just information, but we can't know, right? So like I previously stated, the likelihood that these scenarios play out exactly in this way is pretty low, as there are variables that cannot be accounted for theoretically. But based on the information we have at hand, I think this is probably one of the best guesses that I could come up with. And so let's continue. Now that we've painted this incredibly blurry picture, we know that it's convoluted and we can't really figure out exactly what's going to happen. What is the best ways to handle the launch and the uncertainty and the risks involved with either skipping the pre-bridge and going to the post-bridge, or only investing pre-bridge? What do we do here? So this is my favorite strategy. I'm going to call this divide and conquer. If you're looking to make the most of the launch and you're going to be trading pre-bridge no matter what, or you've been considering it and thinking you want to at least do a little bit, it may be wise to divide your allocated tokens or funds into 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, or 90-10 as far as percentages, to then be used for both pre-bridge and post-bridge swapping. Splitting funds will allow you to offset your risk within the pre-bridge trading in the case where you do get burnt a little bit. Now, this is not to say that you're going to get burnt. This is just saying that because of the unpredictability and the way that you can't exactly see what the relative price of token X is to token Y, or Pulse is to Pulse X pre-bridge, you can only see the ratios. You can't see how they're moving relative to one another. The risk is a little higher. So this is just in case that you get burnt, but it's not like you're going to get burnt if you trade pre-bridge. If you're very confident in your ability to gauge a trade pre-bridge, you might want to use closer to a 50-50 ratio, but this is still more of an extreme ratio in my opinion. If it's me, and again, not financial advice, I think that, putting a smaller amount than the majority is probably the safer bet pre-bridge. But then again, that's just my opinion, and it's not the only way, and it's probably going to be wrong to some degree, right? So take this with a grain of salt and always do your own research. Think for yourself. If you're a more novice or conservative, using a smallish percentage for pre-bridge trading is more than likely your best bet to lessen the impact of a bad trade if it were to happen. This is especially true if you don't get in right away, because as time goes on, like we talked about, it is going to get harder and harder to predict exactly what you are getting for a certain amount of tokens. When the bridge goes, or the Pulse chain goes live, it is going to be easier if the way we think that all of the pools are going to be created are like we are predicting. Then it will be easiest to predict and know what you're getting in a swap immediately upon launch, and it's going to get harder and harder afterwards. So the more conservative you want to be, or you should also be more conservative potentially the further into the pre-bridge trading that you come into. Like if your hours are a day in, you may want to be very conservative because you really don't know what ratio you're going to get. Just things to think about here. But in conclusion, there is no right way to play the launch of Pulsechain. The only thing we can do is lay out as many likely scenarios as we can, make a plan for the scenarios, and accept that what we get is what we get after executing. And we can always buy more later. Maybe we have to do a little more work in the real world to get more money, but we can always do that later. You can also always dollar cost average in if you didn't get the amount of tokens you were hoping for. All right. And there's going to be dips. We don't know when they're going to be, but there will be dips, and you'll be able to catch up on the token allocations that you maybe missed out on. That's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope it got your brain going. Thank you so much for watching. If you've liked the video so far, please smash that like button. Drop me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. If I missed something, if there's something else in the equation that we got to think about here. And also smash that big red subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. If you'd like to support the channel, you can go to cryptographics.com. I've got t-shirts and hoodies. You can book a one-on-one call to learn more about Pulsechain, Pulse X, Hex, the whole 9 yards. You can join the YouTube membership, as well as you can donate in the link below to either PayPal or to an Ethereum address. And guys, there's always scammers in the comments. Be careful. If it's not my big highlighted name, it ain't me, and I'm never going to ask you to do a WhatsApp. If you want to ask me questions specifically, go to cryptographics.com, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk very soon. Peace.